Hi, this is Mato. In this video I will show you the game between Alekhine and Capablanca. This is a game from World Chess Championship match, played in 1927. Alexander Alekhine had white pieces and he started with d4. Capablanca played d5. c4, queen's gambit. e6, declined. Knight to c3, knight to f6. Pinning the knight, knight from b to d7. e3, c6, a3. Bishop to e7 on pinning, knight to f3. Capablanca castled kingside. Bishop to d3 and now d takes on c4. Bishop takes on c4, knight to d5. Bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop. Knight to e4, knight from 5 to f6, knight to g3, c5. Alekhine castled kingside. Knight to b6 attacking the bishop, bishop to a2, c takes on d4. Alekhine recaptured with knight, avoiding to have isolated queen's pawn. g6, rook to c1, placing the rook on the open file. Bishop to d7, queen to e2, connecting rooks. Rook from a to c8, fighting for the open file. e4, intending e5. Capablanca played e5, knight to f3. King to g7, h3, h6. 20 moves have been played, and the position is about equal. Queen to d2, bishop to e6, and bishops were exchanged. White to move. What is the best move for white in this position? Alekhine played the best move. Queen to a5, attacking the pawn on a7 and one on e5. Knight to c4. If rook to a8, knight takes on e5. Well, perhaps the best move is knight from f to d7. And one line goes like this. Rook takes rook, rook takes rook, queen takes on a7, queen to b3, queen takes on b7, queen takes on b2. This is a better variation for black than one chosen by Capablanca in the game. So in the game we have knight to c4, queen takes on a7, knight takes on b2, rooks were exchanged, queen takes on b7, knight to c4, queen to b4. 27 moves have been played. The dust has settled a little bit, and white is a pawn up, and black doesn't have a compensation for Raul's pawn. Rook to a8, rook to a1, queen to c6, a4, knight takes on e4, knight takes on e5, queen to d6, queen takes on c4, queen takes on e5. Exchanging pieces helps white, who is a pawn up. Rook to e1, pinning the knight. Knight to d6, attacking the queen. Queen to c1. If rook takes on e5, knight takes on c4, and black is okay. So Alekhine played queen to c1. Queen to f6. Knight to e4, forcing the exchange. Knight takes on e4, rook takes on e4. Rook to b8, rook to e2, rook to a8, rook to a2, defending the pawn. Rook to a5, queen to c7, attacking the rook. Queen to a6, queen to c3, check. King to h7. Should white defend the pawn on a4? How would you continue? Alekhine played rook to d2, setting a little trap. Queen to b6, can you see the trap? What happens if rook takes on a4? then white has a winning move. Rook to d8, threatening checkmate. So we have queen to b6, rook to d7, queen to b1 check, king to h2, queen to b8 check, g3, rook to f5, queen to d4, queen to f8, rook to d5, rook to f3, h4, queen to h8, white to move. Alekhine played queen to b6. Well, queen takes queen was also okay for white. Queen to a1, king to g2, attacking the rook, rook to f6, queen to d4, attacking the rook, queen takes queen, rook takes on d4, king to g7, and now we are going to see a very instructive endgame. a5. This pawn on a5 has a dream to become a queen. Rook to a6, rook to d5, rook to f6, rook to d4, rook to a6, rook goes behind the pawn. King to f6, king to f3. Ideally, white king would like to go to b5 to attack the rook and to make pawn advance possible. King to e5, king to e3, h5, king to d3, king to d5, king to c3, king to c5, rook to a2, waiting move, king to b5, king to b3, well, king to d4 was also possible. We have king to b3, king to c5, king to c3, king to b5, and now king to d4. Rook to d6 check, king to e5, rook to e6 check, king to f4. White king is going to g7 to attack the base of the pawn chain. King to a6, king to g5, rook to e5 check, king to h6, rook to f5, f4, rook to c5, intending rook to c3, attacking the pawn on g3, rook to a3, rook to c7. Should I mention that rook takes pawn is out of question, because rook takes rook, king takes rook, king to g7, king to b4, and white king would slaughter all the pawns on the king's side. So we have rook to c7, defending the pawn on f7, king to g7, rook to d7, just waiting. Black can't improve his position. White to move. How would you continue? Alekhine played f5. G takes on f5. And now nothing protects the pawn on h5. King to h6, f4, G takes on f4, defending the pawn. King to g7, attacking the pawn on f7. Rook to f5, defending. At first you would think that black is defending and doing okay. Not so. Rook to a4, defending the pawn on f4, attacking the rook. White to move. How would you continue? Rook to e4 was played. Can you see the purpose for this move? Black to move. Capablanca played king to a6. If king takes on a5, then check. Rook takes rook, pawn takes rook, king to b7, and white is winning easily. So we have king to a6, king to h6, rook takes on a5. What about something else like king to a7, then rook to e5, rook takes on f4, king to g5, rook to a4, king takes on h5. This is also winning for white. So in the game we have rook takes pawn, rook to e5, rook to a1, king takes pawn, rook to g1, rook to g5, rook to f5 is also winning, rook to g5, rook to h1, rook to f5 attacking the pawn on f7, king to b6, rook takes pawn on f7, king to c6, white to move. White played the move when black resigned. Rook to e7, cutting off the king on the e-file. Capablanca resigned at move 82. What a battle. What do you think of this game? And that is all. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I wish you good luck with your chess and bye for now.